topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready for Insights to Incite? Ready or not, it's showtime. Now get ready to listen in and watch right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join us and together we will escape the mundane. Insights to Incite, here is your host, Brandon Lawson.
This is something that many say defines love. If you can never give them this, then seemingly you will fail time and time again in your pursuit to effectively communicate to them that you love them. Several people, if not the majority of those you know, will openly tell you they never have enough of this. Friend, this is Brandon coming to you from my home here. Today is Thursday, July 15th. And I want to personally thank you for joining me here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV for another episode of Insights to Incite. And as you probably already know, but in case you don't, we are here every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, and we'd love for you to join us each week as much as you can and whenever possible. That if you're not able to, you can find our podcasts on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We just search Insights to Incite. And today I want to speak with you about life management. It was about a month and a half ago, 6 weeks to be exact, I spoke about priorities. And within that message, that show, I mentioned that when we give people our time, we communicate to them that we care about them. And whereas conversely, the same is true. When someone doesn't give me their time, what they are in turn saying is that I don't matter to them. I am unimportant to them. Giving people our time, says that we care because we're making room in our lives for them. And I like the way Lao Tzu put it. He said, time is a created thing. He said that if those who say they don't have the time are in effect really saying that they don't want to. And it's been said that the best thing to spend on your relationship is time, conversation, understanding, and honesty. Well, you cannot spend any of it on conversation, understanding, honesty, or anything else if you're not willing to give the time. So, understanding that, today's lesson is about time. And this is lesson 15, the final lesson in our series, Matters That Matter. And I've titled today's lesson, Where is Your Heart? In the first book of the New Testament, the Gospel according to Matthew, we read, For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So, where is it that you spend the bulk of your time? How about the bulk of your money? Where you spend, wherever it is that you give the bulk of your time and the bulk of your money to, that reveals what and who is important to you. And the same with myself. Where I spend the majority of my time, where I give the most of my money, reveals what or who is important to me. A large portion of life is dictated by where we dedicate ourselves, our time, and our money. Yes, our dedicates dictate our very lives. And time is both precious and invaluable. Perhaps this is why so many say it is a necessity to showing love. Our late friend Zig Ziglar liked to say, family spells love, Time. And so that's what we're talking about today is time. Life management has to do as is encompassed in the time we have. So many of us would like it if we had more time, but we all are allotted the same amount of hours in a day. And therefore, we must do our best to manage our lives with the time we've been given. And recognizing the invaluable nature of time, I believe this is where Ralph Waldo Emerson was coming from. Recognizing the invaluable nature of time, he stated, guard well your spare moments. They are like uncut diamonds. Discard them and their value will never be known. Improve them and they will become the brightest gems in a useful life. So, why is it? Why is time such an invaluable commodity? Any thoughts? Well, I believe there are three truths. Three truths that can answer this question for us. And I want to dig into these and share more, elaborate on these, individually. But first, we're going to step away to our first commercial break. And when we return, we'll get into that.
Wow, that was insightful. Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net or calling him at 513-520-7597. Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
So, why is it that time is such an invaluable commodity? Well, the three truths I want to share with you regarding this, I have titled The Three Truisms of Time. And the first one is, sooner or later, time will be no more. Yes. Just like a sports game, a game of basketball, or perhaps a better illustration would be football. since football, could officially end in a tie. It won't necessarily keep on going and going and going. In the same way, the game of life as we know it will eventually come to an end. Knowing this, whenever we have an opportunity to do good, to be good, to be His light, His love, to be an extension of His life to others, then we should be that. And at times, this means doing a kind deed, an act of benevolence, or as something that seemed to be more common, it was more popular in, maybe close to a decade ago, was what they called a RAOC, random acts of kindness. And, there's a parable, or some scholars debate whether this is truly a parable. It's listed as a parable, but parables are actually a story that's fictitious, but it's made to give an illustration. And some wonder if this has really truly happened. But we find it in Luke chapter 10. This parable speaks well of this, showing when there was an opportunity to do good, how one stepped up and did it, just as what we were saying, while two others did not. But I'm going to turn there. If you would like to join me, it is found in the book of Luke. I'm sure you've heard of this parable. Perhaps you've read it many times. But Luke chapter 10 is where I'm going. And it begins starting in verse 25. It says, "Just then an expert in the law stood up to test him," that's to test Jesus, saying, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he asked him. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." "You've answered correctly," Jesus told him. "Do this and you will live." But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus took up the question and said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him, beat him up, and fled, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite, when he arrived at the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan on his journey came up to him, and when he saw the man, he had compassion. He went over to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on olive oil and wine. Then he put him on his animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said, "Take care of him. When I come back, I'll reimburse you for whatever extra you spend." "Which of these 3," Jesus asked, "which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" "The one who showed mercy to him," he said. Then Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." So there's an illustration where the Samaritan stepped up to the plate. When there was that opportunity to do good, he did that. And there was the other 2 who passed right on by. But the fact of the matter is, time, sooner or later, won't be on our side. I mean, we will, find that we won't have any time. Our time will officially have come to an end. Therefore, let's do good as we can. And then there may be another time where actually doing good is not doing, or maybe it's not speaking. It's, biting our tongue, or refusing to do something, in retaliation. We bite our tongue, we, overlook an incident. And so, in effect, we keep the peace. And there's another example I want to turn to. It's also in the book of Luke. It can be found the chapter before that. In Luke chapter 9, and I want to start beginning in verse 46. It says, Then an argument started amongst them, this is amongst the disciples, about who would be the greatest of them. But Jesus, knowing the thoughts of their hearts, took a little child and had him stand next to him. He told them, Whoever welcomes this little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes him who sent me. For whoever is least among you, this one is great. John responded, Master, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he does not follow us. Don't stop him, Jesus told him, because whoever is not against you is for you. When the days were coming to a close for him to be taken up, he determined to journey to Jerusalem. He sent messengers ahead of him, and on the way they entered a village of the Samaritans to make preparations for him. But they did not welcome him, because he determined to journey to Jerusalem. When the disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them? But he turned and rebuked them, and they went to another village. Well, you can see there, it's a matter of where they shouldn't be doing. Here there was one that was casting out demons, but James and John didn't recognize this individual as being one of them, and they were out to rebuke him. And she said, "Leave him alone. The best thing you can do is not to do anything." Then the other time, they were shortly thereafter, where the Samaritans didn't want to welcome Jesus into Samaria as he was passing through on his way to Jerusalem. James and John said, "You want us to call down fire from heaven to burn them?" Jesus said, "No, stop it." So sometimes the best thing we can do is to not do, to not speak, bite our tongue, to overlook an offense. And in light of this, we should be mindful that there's plenty of times where we're glad someone overlooked an offense of something we did when we misspoke. And that leads us into our next truism. That first truism, as we said, was sooner or later, time will be no more. There will be a time, there'll come a point when time won't be available. It won't be on our side. And the second one is we cannot take it back. Just as I mentioned when I said, when they overlooked an offense, it's something we said. Once we speak it, we can't retract it. And the same goes for time. Once time passes us by, there's no reclaiming it. You can't go back and retract it to do it again. And recognizing that we can't, reclaim or retrieve our time, we should make it a point to esteem it as the precious and valuable commodity it is, and never should we waste it. So let's be wise in how we utilize the time that's been given to us. Actually, this is sort of outside of what I had planned, but Roxy, if you would put back up on the screen there that quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson that speaks a lot what we were just speaking of here. To not waste your time, to utilize it wisely, to make the most of it. Guard well your spare moments. They are like uncut diamonds. Discard them and their value will never be known. Improve them and they will become the brightest gems in a useful life. So very true. Yes. And the third truism of time is we live in a dark, dark world. And thus, the good times we have available to us, we should redeem them. We need to redeem them to make the most of the opportunities given to us. And that the word opportunity, it speaks of a favorable situation. Not just It's not just any time that avails itself; it's a favorable time. That word opportunity, years back, the there'd be ships out on the ocean when we didn't have highways and byways and interstates. A lot of what was transported, even the daily commute for humans, was on ships, where they went down rivers and crossed seas. And back in the day, when the waves started getting real heavy, the winds picked up. It was topsy turvy. You know, it was at a point where you might flip. Your ride, your very life could be in danger. There would be the one from the harbor and would yell out, "Opportune! Opportune." And what that meant is this is the best chance you have right now to try to make your way to shore. It was the most favorable time they had. The winds had died down some. You know, don't wait. Start your way towards the shore. Get out of the sea. Get off there. Come to land. And we need to make the most of each and every opportunity we are given. Redeem the time while it is on your side. This is precisely what the Apostle Paul wrote to the Gentiles. When he wrote his letter to the church at Ephesus. And we can find that in Ephesians chapter 5. Turn there. And I will begin reading in verse 15. Pay careful attention, then, to how you walk, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of the time, because the days are evil. So don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. So we need to make the most of it because the days are evil. The times we live in, we're, those favorable moments when we have to really make the most of a situation, whether it be speaking into someone's life, or it could be, getting something done. Don't discard that. Don't just, brush it off and say, I'll get to it later. Make the most of the time that's given. Nearly every one of us wish we had more time. We'd like to somehow be able to increase the number of hours, minutes that we have in a given day. Yet we know that we can't. That's not within our powers to do so. And that is why life management, how you manage your time, how you go about scheduling, being prepared, to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. Because being prepared is key. It's been said that success happens when preparation meets opportunity. The opportunity may present itself, but if you're not prepared, not ready, it passes you by. So a lot of what allows you to make the most of your time, of the life you've been given, is the groundwork you've laid before the opportunities arise. What you have done so that you cannot just see an opportunity, but you can seize it. Yes. In fact, it was the former British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, who once said, "The secret of success in life is for a man to be ready for his opportunity when it comes." So, knowing this, why is it? Why don't we do any better? Why aren't we any better at making the most of the life that's been given? Why do time and time again opportunities pass us by? Any thoughts? Friends, I have some thoughts that I'd like to share in regards to this, of course, or I would not be even bringing this up. And we're going to get into that. But first, we're going to step away to our second commercial break. And we'll be back here shortly.
Wow, that was insightful. Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net or calling him at 513-520-7597. Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
So, before we broke away to commercial, we spoke of how we all wish we could increase the amount of hours and minutes within a day, but we know we can't. And I asked, so why is it that we don't do any better? Why aren't we any better at managing our lives, at making the most of the time that's been given? Well, I believe the real question is, where and how must we change? We know that it will take change. I mean, if we want things to be different, we can't just go about doing the same thing. I mean, we all know that quote from Albert Einstein about insanity. The definition of insanity is to keep on doing the same thing and expect different results. Well, we must change. So where is it that we need to change, or how must we change? Well, the good news is that we can, and these changes aren't all that complicated. They're really not complicated at all. They're only a matter of practicality. We have to move from thoughts or theory to actions or reality. And I like to say, we need to focus in on the 3 I's, not the eyes in the back of your head, but the 3 I's. And that first one is utilize. Friends, we all have stuff that is at our disposal. It's something we can utilize at any point, but we rarely do. I mean, a lot of places, including my own, you could see that found in books. I have so many books, some of them I've never even picked up and started reading. I tend to I don't know what the ratio is exactly, but maybe for every one I read, I buy 12. So you get the picture. There's constantly a backlog, more and more. Well, something that you have at your disposal, and perhaps you use it. Some use it very well, others don't use it at all. Others have it and rarely use it. That is a calendar. I mean, anybody who has a cell phone, even if it's one of the old flip phones, not a smartphone of any kind, you can find a calendar on there. And with any type of smartphone, you can actually set recurring reminders in your calendar about things. And if you have an Android type of smartphone, you can actually schedule text to be sent to yourself to remind you. And besides the calendar we have on our phone, you have wall calendars. I see those in many people's homes. And some people, if they have a desk they sit at in their work, they have a glass piece that lays over top of the desk, and underneath is a desk calendar. We have planners. So, we should use these, schedule reminders in our calendars, use them to our advantage. Maybe we write out goals for the month and we, want to refer back. And that is key. When I say utilizing a calendar, it's not just writing in or typing in, it's also referring to. Because many times we can write something down, but if we never look at our calendar, that's similar to writing goals down, which you might have goals that are listed on your calendar. If you write them down but you never look at them, it doesn't pay off too well. So utilize the resources that you have. Then second is synchronize. Synchronize your devices, the tools you have, your devices and your accounts. That way that they all are working together with one another in harmony. Otherwise, one might say this and the other says this because you didn't update both or you didn't update all. If you fix them to where they can be synchronized, then when you update the one, the others are updated. And it'll be less chaotic because whichever device you pick up, whatever you look at, whatever account you happen to be in, you'll get the same message. Otherwise, you thought this time was available, but it wasn't because it was only put in this device and not over here. This account threw you off because you thought you were okay, not knowing that this account affected this one. But when you synchronize them, it brings them together in a perfect harmony and it makes for a much better way for yourself and helps you to be better prepared and on the ball and will help you tremendously with others, being that you won't, drop the ball. You won't be thinking that you were free when you weren't. You won't look at the one device thinking, well, I'm all good. But coming to find out you're not because you didn't enter it in this, you only entered it in here. It'll show. Then the third is scrutinize. This is not about scrutinizing people. No. Scrutinize your tools and your time. And what do I mean by that? Well, I believe we should periodically review, review what we're using, the tools we use, and overlook our time, even our schedule. Are there some things that are not they're not panning out as we hope that we just want to drop, and have extra free time or insert something else? Or when it comes to the tools, be on the lookout. There may be something that's better. Perhaps you'll find something that would be an upgrade that's worth the money that it will cost you to get, being the features and benefits outweigh the cost. So those are the 3 I's that can help us in making changes, knowing where and how, where to go about changing to better ourselves to be better prepared to make the most of every opportunity given to us. So, what is it they bring you? These three eyes, I like to say, they help you. They help you to be better in your planning, your preparing, and your prioritizing, which are all keys to life. Do you want a life that's has a lot of chaos and constant upheaval? That you upset others. Whenever you did good for the one, the others are upset. If that's what you want, then maybe you go on living the life you currently live in. But if you don't, focus in on these. Utilize the resources you have. Synchronize your accounts, your devices, and scrutinize your time and your tools to see where it is that you will best fit. What it is that you might do. What kind of devices are out there that could perhaps help you to be better in this regard. And so, as we think of time, you know, what is your biggest weakness, or what is the one thing you struggle with the most at being able to manage your time wisely, that keeping a schedule as you would hope you keep it? I mean, many times you might have a to-do list and you plan to do certain things, but then for whatever reason you don't follow the script you wrote out. You know, what is it that tends to get you off script, or that somehow you don't continue on and follow through? Anyone? I know that for many folks, especially those who have a servant's heart, I think of my friend Cheryl Edwards. She has very much a servant's heart, and she wants to be there for people, and many times she is. Yet as a result, she has a hard time saying no, when sometimes that's what it requires. John Maxwell, he used to be doing so much left and right that he had an insecurity. He has shared about how he had a hard time saying no. What if you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings? Plus, what if he doesn't get another opportunity there? He didn't want to say no, and therefore he was running left and right. His schedule was overloaded, and his friend Jack Twine, or Jack Hayford, I believe is his name, but his friend Jack said, John, if you can't say no, let me know. Let me know. KNOW, not NO. Let me know, and then I will say NO, no, to them. Because sometimes that's what it takes. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stick to the script. Times we need to say no. Another another issue that some have when it comes to following script and to doing things, getting things done, being prepared, is they don't plan properly. No, they fill the schedule so much that Not only do they not have any rest, which is a lot like Cheryl, having a hard time saying no, she stacks her schedule so much. Well, as a result, you don't have much free time, and you need that time for yourself to rest, but also in case something runs later than you thought. Perhaps it just runs longer than you anticipated it would, or you got, and when it started was at a later time than it was supposed to, and then it runs in and overlaps, or don't give you time to get to the next. Now you're scampering, you're scrapping, you're trying to get everything together and get going, be there in time. You're in a frantic pace. That frantic pace is a state of chaos. And then, as a result of rushing, trying to find this, trying that, get this real quick, and I'm running late. I got to do this. I got to get the car. Got to get going. As a result of all that, you forget some things. Maybe you're supposed to take something with you, or maybe you're going out of town for, you know, the next 2 weeks, and you're running because you're scampering and going real quick in a frantic pace because you're afraid you'll miss your flight. So you didn't turn the air conditioning down. Not that you necessarily wanted to turn it off, but you might have wanted to not have it, or maybe I should say turn it up, but where the air conditioning doesn't come on as much, since no one's going to be in the house. Why do that? Well, you forget all about it. Then you get a much higher electric bill. No, that's not the end of the world. I mean, that's not all that bad of a thing. It's just a little bit extra money you pay, but nonetheless, you forgot. That's what happens, and you see how you're running late. You're gonna miss your flight, and then you're just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, as they say, hoping you can get everything done, that you'll be there on time, that you don't forget anything for the flight. So the first one is a reason that many times one has a hard time sticking to their schedule is they don't know how to say no to others. They can't bring themselves to say it. They are so bent on being there for others that they often are not there for others as they want to be, because their schedule gets so compact, so crowded that overlaps, and they're not on time, or they're not in the best state of mind. When they do arrive, they don't have that peace about them. Then the second is they don't plan properly. Then the third, I believe the third reason, or one one of the other reasons that people do not follow script or do the best as they should, is they have a hard time dealing with the curveballs. You know, yes, the curveballs that life throws at them. That is the unexpected that pops up on their plate. They were all expecting to do this, get this done, and then this came, and they immediately their attention goes over to this thing that comes in, and this is put on the back burner. And perhaps they didn't intend for this to be on the back burner for very long. They were just hoping to deal with this and get right back to where they were. But next thing you know, the whole day's passed and they haven't even done any more on this. How well do you manage that? When something comes that's put on your plate that you weren't expecting, how well are you at tending to that and getting right back to where you were, getting back on schedule, getting back on script? Ultimately, that is something you may have to work on. I know I've struggled with that area at times. But, friends, we should all want to make the most of our time, to do the best with the time that's been allotted to us here on earth. And we need to put away this notion that we need to be there for everyone, even those we love who are dear to us. If they are really appreciative of who we are and what we do for them, if they love us, they'll understand when at times we'll have to say no. And there'll still be times you'll say yes, but there's times you're going to have to say no for your own well-being and perhaps for theirs even. That's what it would take. Yes. So we need to say no, to make time for ourselves, to give free time where we're not rushed or we're not scatterbrained. But also we need to make time for others. Yes. It is true. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, Lao Tzu, who said time is a created thing. For those to say they don't have the time is to say they don't have the money. Or so those that don't have the time is to say they don't want to, or they say they don't have the time. Excuse me, I got mixed up about where we spend our time and our money. But those to say they don't have the time is to say they don't want to. And remember that giving your time to others is so precious, such an invaluable gift. As it's been said, the greatest gift you can give someone is your time. Because when you are giving someone your time, you are giving them a portion of your life that you will never get back. So be mindful of that. And also when you request other people's time, not to waste their time, because they have just given you a part of their life that they can never retrieve. Knowing that, we should always make sure that the time that we've requested of them is not something that turns out to be a waste for them or us. Friends, thank you for joining us for another episode here on W4CY and Talk 4 TV. We are here every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, and we hope you'll be back next week to join us for another episode of Insights to Incite. And just one final thing to remember, next week we begin a new series, and we most certainly hope you'll join us. Thank you once again.
Wow, what an insightful show. Thanks for listening in and watching today. If you missed any part of today's show or any other episode, check it out on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Now take today's insight and utilize it. Incite yourself to action and to excellence in the week ahead, and join us again next Thursday and every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time for another insightful session with Brandon Lawson as he speaks to us and shares some more insights to incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV.